A generation to generation Cowboys and sports talk. My dad, my partner, my co-host, Cowboy Joe 64.
I am your father.
Just to get the Cowboys 2 good games to hopefully understand that they need to go receiver and go high with this next pick.
Yeah, yeah, that's really what this is gonna be about. All right, you looking live at Generation to Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks. I'm the host, DJ Itelluwhat, and I'm joined with my dad, Cowboy Joe, and our special guest, one of our special friends, B Bird. If you watch our channel, you always see B Bird in the comments. He's always in the comments, and so today we're gonna be just chopping it up about Cowboy OTAs and some of the rumors we've been hearing, and we're really gonna just be listening to a couple of the OGs, Cowboy Joe and B Bird. We're gonna really get their take on some things and kind of just put some fat on our heads as a fourth generation and just listen to what they have to say and kind of just piggyback off of what they think. And so that's what we're gonna be doing today. So y'all want to say what's up to everybody and kind of jump it off?
So what's up to the people? Appreciate you joining our show, and we're excited to have B Bird on. We've been trying to hook up with him for a while, and I chatted with him earlier. We're definitely gonna do this more than once.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing, we're just trying to connect with some of the people that we just have, a natural connection with. We were just chatting kind of backstage with B Bird, and we already just have a whole lot in common. People in Texas have this thing about them. When you're a Texan, you kind of have that certain kind of pride, but we have that connection. And then you mentioned that taking your kids to the games. And so that's kind of how I was brought up. I went to the Cowboy games with my dad and my granddad, with both granddads actually. And so when you spend time with your kids and you kind of sharing those moments, and that's really important. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, B Bird, and you mentioned you going to a game. You said the Minnesota game.
Yeah, I'm gonna be going to the Minnesota game, man. I'm a long time Cowboy fan, man. I can remember my first game being like in the '70s. I used to watch it by myself when I was little, man. My mom used to buy me those little Dad, you might remember this one, the little magazine,
Yeah.
whatever they give you, and I was just a diehard. But I had other Cowboy fans around me, but I was always the biggest one. So this community, this content creator community, kind of brings about like everybody that's here, everybody that supports is probably the biggest Cowboy fans of the Cowboy fans, right? So it's a place where
Hmm.
we can go and we can never get enough information. We can talk Cowboys all day, and this is a place where I've come to find some people that's kind of like me. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
and one of the things I just want to say, man, about y'all show, man, that really draws me to y'all, just y'all is authentic. Um, I just like the conversation y'all have back and forth. It's kind of like sitting around in the living room, three diehard Cowboys fans, just chopping it up, trying to see, hey, which direction that we should go in to better benefit this team. Back in the days before this content creation thing came about, you go to the message board, but that always devolved into name calling and people that's getting far on one side and far on the other side, and nothing ever been, you can't even get educated on some things. But throughout this content creation journey, man, I've been educated on things, and I've been able to give people other, just chop it up and share ideas, man. And it's
Hmm.
just been great to me. I think this community is great. We have a lot of respect for each other. There's no disrespect going on. Somebody might come up with an idea. We might be passionate about, our side, but at the end of the day, we can shake hands and still understand that, hey, we are all Cowboy fans and we all want us to win. We might have different ideas and different approaches, but I just love this community, man. I'm just gonna say, I really think that y'all guys are just authentic. I love the conversation y'all have with each other, and I was like tuning in, to be honest with you. Y'all one of my favorites, man.
Yeah, so I said, like I said, that family connection. The Cowboys fans. We're deep rooted. You got generations of fans. You come and you watch games as a family, watching with your son, watching with your daughter. I have a daughter. She's a Cowboy fan. She don't watch it as much as we do. Of course, she passed through,
Yeah.
but when she's engaged, she's engaged. But so that's important, just having that family connection. And then, what I like about you is just you and I have kind of just been communicating on Twitter. And like I said, we're kind of aligned. I've been some of the people that we've been, doing content with, big time show. he and
Yeah.
I just have a natural connection because we're fraternity brothers.
Yeah.
And then, my son went to high school with, well, not at the same time, but the same high school that Lou went to,
Okay.
Bishop Dunn Catholic school. My daughter as well. And so Lou is a Dallas guy. So yeah, we're just aligned with certain people, and we enjoy the conversation. And I done learned just a lot from you, just some of the things that you post, and you
Yeah.
definitely. Sometimes you might be leaning one way, and then B Bird to chime in, and what I say myself, B Bird, he really got this thing right. So that's one of the things I like. It is a respect that we have for each other, and you're willing to, you're not dug in on certain positions. Sometimes, you got to have that space to kind of, if you want to look at things differently. So that's what I really appreciate about you. So we're going to just get right into it. And so the first thing I want to ask, I've been asking everybody this. We have the underwear Olympics. We talk about that. And so I believe we have the coaching underwear Olympics. So my question for you, B Bird, is Brian is Brian Schottenheimer the real deal, or are we just seeing the coaching underwear Olympics?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm glad you asked that question. For one thing, I thought about this. I think that me, maybe you, I'm more skeptical than my son. Okay. So my son's 21. I've been through more pain than my son. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? So
mhm,
since I've been through more pain than him, I'm gonna be more. It takes more convincing for me. So he's the one that texts me like, "Hey man, we try to get Pickens, and this guy got cut. He's excited." So I'm more reserved about it. So let me. It, it's funny you ask that question because I'm kind of different, right? So my favorite coach of all time is not Tom Landry, it's Jimmy Johnson.
mhm,
The reason why, because Jimmy came in and he changed the culture. So what he came in and did is he came in and he had the asthma field where he ran people, and the guys that didn't make it, these guys that they had a country club atmosphere back then too. And so he came in and ran guys and took a couple of years to turn the roster. But what he did, it made, hey, we didn't go to California for training camp. We went to Austin, Texas, man, where it's 105 degrees.
mhm.
And he just said, hey, you can make it through this. You're going to be able to make it through the season. So I'm not a kumbaya coach. I'm more of a, hey, man, look, if you want to keep this $5 million job, you better play better. That's what motivates guys to me. And I could be different on that, man. So I, I am I am just watching, observing. Again, Jay Chuck posted something that showed that every new coach, like six new coaches, have said that already that the culture is changing. So Shadi is saying that, but every other coach is saying that. All coaches are saying that at this time. It's not going to. We'll see that during the year when hard times come, when some injuries happen. When somebody busts an assignment. How do you handle it then? Because there's nothing right now to even judge a culture off of. So I'm just being cautious right now. I'm optimistic, but I am still one of those guys, man, that think that accountability is the thing. Look, let me just tell you this: if it's third and four, and Michael Parsons jumping outside, I think that you should give him a first down. I think that guy should come to the sideline. I don't care if it's Michael Parsons. You need to come over
Mhm.
here. You just gave him a first down. We can't have those kind of mistakes.
Yep.
So I'm that guy, man. Just accountability. And hey, the best player is going to play. And I don't care if we got it from the UFL. If he comes in and beats you out, he's going to play. No politics because I'm trying to win this game, man. And so that's who I am. I'm more of an old school type guy as far as coaching is concerned. So, but hey, it might just be past my time, but that's just what I feel. But I'm looking to be proven wrong.
So Jules, you can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything that B Bird just said. I mean, it's like my dad said. Really, we have so much. We're aligned in so many ways. We think a lot about a lot of things, even the dynamic between you and your son. Because I'm just like your son is. I'm more optimistic. I just told my dad last night. I think we got the best coach in the NFL. And I just that's what that's just how I feel, And he was just like, I don't, we gonna have to wait on that. But I just, as a fourth generation Cowboy fan, I know I've dealt with a lot of hurt too. But at the same time, I kind of have developed this I don't know what this way of looking at things to where it's just like I'm just want to be realistic, right? And so
Yeah,
it's just like for instance, last year with Mike McCarthy, when the Cowboys didn't do anything in the offseason, Mike McCarthy kind of bantering and going back and forth with the management with the front office. I kind of felt like realistically we're not gonna be good this year. Okay, that's just what's realistically gonna happen. We could be good. I mean, nothing. I don't know the future or anything, but more than likely, it's not gonna end well, right? So, but this year, everything that's happening, like you said, well, all of the other coaches saying that this culture change, and all of the people all of the players saying it's a culture change and this and that, and then they went out and got George Pickens. They had a good draft.
yeah,
We kind of knew a couple years ago and last year that draft wasn't good. We knew that.
yeah,
We knew when they drafted Mozzie in school, and that wasn't good. We knew when they drafted Tyler Guyton and they didn't get a running back, that wasn't good. We knew that. You know what I mean? So, but this year, I mean, they had a good draft. They did.
yeah.
So a lot of things are changing, and I'm just real optimistic. I just feel like, from what I'm seeing so far, underwear Olympics and all, I just feel like this is the type of things that you see if there's going to be a different result in the season. I feel like there
Correct.
wouldn't be a different result in the season if we have not seen these things so far. So, the jury is still out. We got to wait till we play. And like I said last week on my show, on our show, Big Bird, I said, so far Shotty is passing the underwear Olympics, but I want to see what happens when Mozzie is not playing good. I want to see what happened when Tyler Guyton is not having a good game. I want to see what happens when Micah jumps off sides and gives him a first down. I want to see if he pulls them, or what he does to make adjustments to things that inevitably will hurt us in the long run. So that's kind
So
of where I'm at with it.
you want to acknowledge the people in the chat and ask them to like and subscribe, and I got a follow up for
Yes.
B Bird.
Okay. Shout out to you, Jeff the Bonehead. Shout out to you, Dallas Law. Yeah, everybody. Shout out to everybody. Everybody commenting on what I said. I'm
Mhm.
drinking the Kool-Aid, as I would say. But I mean, hey, I'm just being realistic. I don't know what else to I don't know how
Yeah.
else to put it.
So appreciate you guys. If you will, like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining. So B Bird, uh, back in the day, were you a Marty Schottenheimer fan? What did you think about him as a coach? I kind of think he was kind of a pseudo Parcells. He just didn't win the AFC Championship game. But were you a Marty Schottenheimer fan back in the day?
I wasn't really a Marty Ball fan because he was so committed to the run back
Mhm.
then. I am now because I think if you really think about it, man, I think the league wants everybody to think that it's a passing league. But if you really look back at it, man, it's a running league. And I would go so far to say that I was on Law's show last year in the off season, and I told him not only would I have got Henry, I would have doubled back and got Jacobs. And then he was like, "Well, why?" I said, "Man, look at the price on these guys. These guys are only making $8 million a year or $7 million a year. You can get two guys of that ilk
Yep.
in your backfield. But what it is that, and I'm veering off the topic a little bit, but what it is that they have sold us on the 300-yard passing games. And I did research on the 2023 playoffs where only one team threw for 300 yards in the playoffs. So, and it was two teams actually. Now, Kansas City with Mahomes threw for 300 in the Super Bowl, but he had to go to overtime to get to 300. So what happens in January and February, man, is that you go to Philadelphia, you go to Washington, you go to some of these, you go to Buffalo. If you're Houston and you go to Buffalo and you go to, you're not winning those games coming out of a
Yeah.
dome
Green
being a
Bay.
passing team. Green Bay, man, there's so many teams out there that sometimes, man, the thing that travels is run game and defense. Man, passing game don't travel. So you asked me, was I a fan of Marty? Not back in the day because everybody ran the ball back in the day, but he was a good coach. I thought, I mean, for Cleveland, for them to get as far as they did, I thought that he did good. But I think today, man, right now, if you get ahead of the curve, because I think that's what's happening is things going back to running the ball, but you can't be 3 years behind the curve because everybody would have been taking advantage of it already. You really think about Philadelphia, man. Saquon Barkley is what got them over. If you think about it, That addition is by itself is what did it, man. And then people go to the
Thank
Super
you, B
Bowl.
Bird. I just
People
want
go
to
to the
say
Super
thank you
Bowl.
for that.
Yeah, people go to the Super Bowl and say, well, he didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. Man, they had so many people dedicated to stopping him that the wide receivers and the quarterback tore him up. And that's how we used to beat people, man. If you really think about it, hey, you want to stop? You can stop Emmett if you put enough people in the box, but Mike don't kill you. Harper don't kill you. You know what I'm saying? So I just think running the ball, man, is very important. And even going off that, man, how do y'all feel about our running backs? I don't want to ask. I know y'all might. I actually like our running backs, and I want to see what y'all feel about.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because last night I was scrolling through YouTube, just nothing's on TV to watch. So I actually watched the Thanksgiving game with Jason Garrett when he started. I watched
Yeah,
the
yeah.
entire game,
Oh wow.
and what stood out to me was he only threw like 20 passes. And of course, you remember he threw the big passes to Michael Irvin and
Yeah.
Harper. But what really stood out is that Emmett was like a machine. Now, obviously, we don't have that. But the way the line played in that game, they had one play, B Bird. They was on like the 7-yard line.
Hmm.
They get a ball to Emmett. He breaks off like a 20-yard run, and they get a holding call. So they take it half the distance. They go back to about the 2-3 yard line. The very next play, he runs for 30 yards. Just, and just for the most part, I think he had like 90 yards receiving. He had like 130 yards rushing. But to your point, that's the way Dak needs to play. Dak doesn't need to be the focal point, in my opinion. But
Absolutely.
my son, and he'll chime in. So he's a fantasy football guy. I'm not. I can't. It's no way I can't. I can't stand it. But he
I
won
play.
a You play?
I play in one league. I've been in the league for like 15 years, so I've
Oh,
been
I
in one
can't.
league.
I
Yeah.
can't do it. I'm kind of OCD, but so he won his championship last year, but the year before that, he had Javonte Williams as one of his back. Now this is before Javonte Williams got hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had never heard of Javonte Williams. So let B Bird know what you think about him. Of course, we got to keep in mind he's coming off the injury though.
Yeah, he coming off the injury, but I mean, a couple of years ago when I had him as one of my backups, he was doing me solid. I mean, he was coming in the game because I think whoever their starter was, they got hurt, and so he was thrust into to the starting role or semi-starting role, and he was playing good. He was giving me, he was my like I was using him as my flex back, as my flex player, and he was doing me pretty good. I mean, I was impressed, but I was also I also had Cortland Sutton, and I was impressed with him. He
And
did
I'm
me
not a
better than I
Cortland
thought.
Sutton, and I'm not a Cortland Sutton guy, but he
And
is.
see, that's the deal with fantasy. See, fantasy teaches you about other players that you have no idea about because you're such locked in on the Cowboys. So it's just
Mhm.
like, you learn who these other players are. And then with the draft, with us being so involved in the draft nowadays, we kind of just follow these guys all the way through. But Javonte Williams is he was good. Now, what I've been hearing so far is that in training camp, Miles Sanders has looked better.
Yeah. Me
But
too.
um what you said is you was spot on about them getting a running back last year was the right thing to do. They should have done that. I mean, and they could have gotten anyone. Derrick Henry, Saquon probably would have been a little bit too pricey, but what's my guy in Houston that came from
Mixon.
the
Mixon.
Joe
Joe
Mixon,
Joe
yeah.
Mixon.
Mixon,
Yeah.
guys like that, that
Yeah.
that was the opportune time to get them because now the price tag is going to
It's gonna go
skyrocket
up.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so now Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa, now I'm kind of more optimistic about them. I just think that these are young brothers. They strong, they fast, they can compete. I feel like Jaden Blue, he has speed like no other. You know what I mean? He runs a 4.2, so I feel like he's going to hit that next level. I also feel like you know, this task is not too tall for him. So I feel like he's going to eventually become our leading back. But and I feel like Phil Maffa going to have a role. I also feel like what's my Hunter Lupke? I feel like Hunter Lupke going to surprise a lot of people. He came out of college as a tailback and
Yeah.
he's been playing a fullback. So I mean, I feel like the rotation, the guys we got should work. But I also feel like if it doesn't work and it looks like it's not going to work in training camp, I feel like they will address it.
So B
I feel
Bird, why
like,
are you optimistic about the backs?
Well, I think if you look at if you look at Javante Williams, man, the guy's 25 years old, man, and just turned 25. So, one of the narratives has always been like, oh, these backs are run down, they're old. I know he has injury, but he's not old back. We're talking Miles Sanders is 28 years old. Do you know that Schoolmaker will be 28 September of this year?
I do.
I mean, so
Yes.
we calling these running backs old, man. These guys still got wear on them. I'll give you my thought process on the running back position. Back in the days, you get a you get a Emmitt Smith, man. These teams with Barry Sanders, and I'm talking about those are elite guys. But you get one guy, and the backup will come in about every 4 or 5 plays. But what you have to do is you have to pay those guys, right? You have to pay them elite money. I think this is my conspiracy theory. I think the NFL starts sharing carries with backs because if I had one back to get 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, now I got to pay him. But if I got three backs to get 500 yards and 5 touchdowns each, how you gonna go to the negotiation table with 500 yards? Like you don't
Hmm.
have any grounds or something to do because they didn't want to have to pay elite money for a
Yeah.
quarterback and elite money for a running back and then elite money for a wide receiver. So let's just divvy up this guy's position. I still think they make running backs like they used to. I still think they got guys that can carry the ball 20, 25 times. I really still think that you should draft a premium running back, a prime time running back, and then fill in guys behind him. Let that guy still run the ball 20 times or whatever. That's the way I feel. So I think teams are giving up on these running backs like Miles Sanders and Javante Williams way too fast. I think they're going to be productive. That's just my opinion. I'm looking at the age. I'm looking at, they don't have much. They was never lead backs where they just kind of had 300 carries and 300 carries. They never did that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a little bit of conspiracy, a little bit of manipulation by the league. But I've always thought running backs were still important. They just made them unimportant, man. If the running game is important, then the running
Yeah.
back is important to me.
So what's that stat?
I was
What's
gonna
that
ask
stat you
y'all.
showing there?
I'm gonna pull up the picture of Jerry and Micah so we can talk about that. But I want to ask y'all about this. Now, this is high priced players, right? Number of high priced players. Okay, we really can't see it like the way I got it set up. Let me see if I can figure out a way to. Okay, so this is a number of high priced players that each team has, and we can see the Cowboys have are at the top where it says that we have a lower number of high priced players. So we have three that's 20 million or more, and we know who those are. That would be Dak, CD, and I can't think of who the other person is. Trayvon,
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe Diggs.
So yeah, maybe Diggs, and then we have two that's 10 million, and we have four that's 5 million. Now, these other teams that we see that are consistently winning, like the Ravens, the Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs, and the Bills, they have way more. So the excuse of there's not enough, it's only enough pie, or the excuse of, we don't, it's only so much to go around, and we can't have all these players making a lot of money and all of that. That excuse is kind of being dealt with. We're gonna have, we can show the Joneses and we can show them like that's just not
No.
accurate. Like what you're saying is not accurate. And if it is accurate, it just means that you're 3 years behind the curve, like B Bird said, and you just haven't figured it out yet. So how come the Bills can
Well,
figure it out? How come
I
the
got
Eagles can figure
I
it
got
out?
the I got the reasoning behind that, right? So I look into
Right.
the Eagles salary cap, and so last year,
Mm-hmm.
so I remember these numbers. So let me tell you, Jalen Hurts signed up. His APY is 50, I think 55 million a year. AJ Brown signed
Mm-hmm.
a 3 year. Try to see how much he is worth. I think it was. I think he's making 30 something $1 million a year too. 30. I think it's 32 million.
Like
Yeah, something like
37.
that. And then
Yeah, something like that.
Smith is making. He's making 3 year 75 million. So he's making 25 million a year. So we got a quarterback that makes
Mm-hmm.
55 or $50 million a year. Then we got a wide receiver that makes 32 million
Mhm.
dollars a year. And then we got another wide receiver that makes $25 million a year, which is like $107 million on the cap. You know what their cap charge was last year combined? No, it
One
was
million a piece.
no, it was
1 million a piece.
33
Oh,
million against the cap. So
uh-huh.
what they're doing is they're
Yep.
pushing it off to the future. So what they do is they
Right.
backload their contracts and they
Mhm.
pay a lot of money up front with
Mm-hmm.
bonuses. And so what they do is they're saying,
Mhm.
okay, so we're gonna pay you, but we'll take a chance on, hey, if you get injured or later on you're not as good, we're negotiate because we're trying to win today. I can't pay you. I can't have
Mm-hmm.
$50 million as a cap charge. I can't have 32 as a cap charge. I can't have 25 as a cap charge because I won't be able to get these other players.
Right.
So let's reduce it so we can go get
Correct.
players now, so we can build a team for a 2 or 3 year run and win. And people say, "Well, you gonna be in cap hell?" Yeah, we'll be there with 3 Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you look at it, Dallas
Mm-hmm.
isn't willing to do that. Now I'll tell you why. Because this is, if y'all have ever heard me talk on other shows, and I always say this, it's because that GM in Philadelphia has to win to keep his job.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
in that, let me tell you what that entails. Think about this, man. So I'm making $10 million a year. I'm the Nick Sirianni, or was that the coach? I can't remember the GM for the
Yeah. Nick Sirianni.
Howie.
Howie.
Thank you.
Howie.
So I'm Howie. I'm staying in the gated community. I got a $5 million house. I'm paying for two kids in college, going to Harvard or something. I got two kids in private school.
Mm-hmm.
I got a wife. I got a maid. I got a pool. I got
Yep.
all this is revolved around my income. Well, what's my income revolved
Mm-hmm.
around? Winning. So I have pressure on
Mm-hmm.
me to win. So I ain't got time. Who cares about 2031? If I don't win, I'm not going to be here anyway. So it's an urgency to
Right.
get the best players on the field now. The issue with the Joneses and the
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys organization has always been, hey, we got next year.
They
They
ain't
have
got no
no
pressure.
pressure, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
they've been
Mm-hmm.
performing like they have no pressure. No, name another GM that can
Mm-hmm.
mail in 2024 because that's what they did last year. They mailed it in,
Nobody.
man. Nobody else
Nobody.
could withstand that.
Mm-mm.
Another GM could not even have
Mm-mm.
Mike McCarthy there on a lame duck status, man. It made no sense. And so
Mm-mm. Nah.
I'm the biggest guy to go against the Joneses because I think that two things: them being in that position of ownership and GM, there's no checks and balances there. So that already screws
Mm-mm.
us up from Jump Street. That puts us behind the 8 ball. You see what happened to Washington when they got that toxic ownership, Dan Snyder, out of there?
Mm-hmm.
They shot
They
right up
shot
because
right
they just
up.
run regular. They just run like a regular organization. They're not run special. They just run regular.
Mm-hmm.
You got an owner, you got a president, you got a GM. Everybody does their job. There's checks and balances along it. All those guys, with the exception of the owner, can lose their job. So they are dedicated to winning.
And they got
And Magic
Magic
Johnson
Johnson
said,
now.
what Magic Johnson said, they say,
Yeah.
how y'all get here? We let those guys do the football stuff. And we just go sit up at the top.
You know, to add to your point, and my dad always say this. This is what to add to your point. I always ask everyone this question. I say, now, when it comes to running the cap and running the football organizations, it's clear that Jones and Stephen and Jerry have a big hand in it. Okay, that's clear, and we know that they're not football guys. Okay, but my question is always, when it comes to building facilities and building the $1 billion mile and all of the facilities, all the equipment and all of the marketing and promotion for the Cowboys, do we think that that Jerry and Steven is running that? They're not. They probably have
Yeah.
the best people in the world to run that business. They're not running that. When it's time to build build $1 million property, do you think Jerry is out there putting nails in and building? He's not
Yeah.
building he's not doing that because they have people that are dedicated professionals that are the best at this. So that's the same thing that they need to do with the football organization. Like for instance, like you said that the Eagles cap charge was 33 million. Well, another thing that we discovered when we looked at their cap last year over the cap is all of their players made $1 million for the
Yeah.
year, all of them. So they're gonna get paid later, but this year on the books it's all
Yeah.
1 million. Jalen Hurts is 1 million. Saquon is 1 million. It's all one. That's why it was 33 million to be exact, because it's 33. It's all one. But how come my question is, and we know the answer, but my question is, how come you guys can't study what the Chiefs are doing and what the Eagles are doing and go ahead and make that transition? And because you're gonna get left behind if you're the only team that's saying, hey, well, we don't have enough money to pay all of these players that we're drafting, and they're all good. I mean, like, we have a lot of number one players. Micah's like a number one player. He deserves to be paid in the highest. CD was, Dak is up there. So
I can tell you why. What it was is, uh, it was because Jerry is still trying to prove to the NFL that he's a football guy.
yep,
Steven is still trying to prove to the NFL. It's arrogance, man. It's ego
yep,
and it's arrogance. That's just what it is. And anybody that coaches here, anybody that plays here, we have to overcome that, man. So in other organizations, you have them supporting you to win. And this one, you got to get around those guys. You got to go massage those guys' ego to get people and all this other kind of stuff. So whenever the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl again, man, it's going to be a grand accomplishment that people won't even realize how great it is for them to win it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing too, just transfer. I guess y'all can get to this, but I don't understand why. Well, so when we talk about arrogance of the front office, well, since they can't get fired, they can play games with their top players. Like they played with Dak, they played with CD, and now they're playing with Michael. I don't
Yeah.
understand why, if you know what the cost is going to be, why these things aren't getting done at an earlier time. I see guys for Philadelphia, and I'm going to use Philadelphia a lot, getting signed early where it's just no problem. They seamlessly go into the training camp. Everybody's happy, contract's done. Hey, we're moving forward. But there's always drama around these contracts, and at the end of the day, they end up getting them anyway. Still getting them, and they end up costing them more. To be totally
And
honest
yeah,
with you,
they
so I don't
overpay.
understand. Yeah,
They overpay.
So one of the things I was gonna bring to the conversation is, so I was in the corporate world for 30 plus years, and I think you guys nailed it. What's happening is, when I was working in the corporate world, we called it benchmarking, or there was a fancy phrase they used for a long time. Then they called it best practices. So what we would do, we would literally go talk to mom and pop operations, B Bird, and just think Chick-fil-A, just how
yeah,
efficient they are, how they do business. So we would talk to companies like that. We would bring them in, and then we would just basically implement what they tell us to do, and then it would go company wide. So one of the reasons we have a 30-year drought, we haven't been to an NFC Championship game in 30 years, is because they just won't benchmark. They won't go talk to the Chiefs. They won't go talk to the Eagles or the Ravens. And I don't know if you remember these guys, B Bird. So you had the old school writers, Randy Galloway here
yeah. I remember.
locally, Frank Luxa, Gary Myers. He's a New York writer now. He was
Hmm.
here. So when Jerry and Steven bought the team, they just said from the start that these are not football guys. Of course, everybody respected Jimmy, but they just kept saying over and over and over that these are not football guys, and I didn't get it at the time.
Yeah,
But the bottom line is, this is where we are. We still sitting here in 2025, and the reason we had this 30-year drought, which I don't think enough people talk about, is because they're just not football guys, and they're still not. And so that's kind of the pickle that we're in. So I had sent my son this picture of Jerry and Micah on the field. So I wanted to get your input on this, B Bird, if you can pull it up.
Let
So
me pull it up. But I want to comment
this,
on what something you said real quick though.
yeah.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, but like also B Bird and everybody that's listening, one thing that they haven't that these other teams have in common, Detroit went a long time without winning the championship. The Redskins, or I'm sorry, the Commanders, they went a long time without winning the championship. Okay, it's a few other teams that I can name that went a long time
Make
without
it
it.
to the NFC Championship game.
Right. But one thing that they all have in common that happened as of late when they started winning was they changed their GM.
yeah.
They changed their GM. Detroit, they changed their GM. Uh,
Ownership got out the way.
yeah, Commanders,
Yeah,
they did the same thing. It's a lot of teams that do that. You can see the pivot when they change their GM and when they change their way
yeah,
of their mode of operations, they
absolutely.
immediately start going
Yeah.
up. Okay, but you can finish. I'm trying to pull up that picture.
Hey, so I did want to say one thing, man, and this is about being a football guy. I want to give you an analogy. It's almost like, I guess y'all may have grew up in kind of the hood like I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And so you knew some dudes that, hey man, you don't want to mess with that dude over there, right? Like you can do
Right.
whatever, don't mess with that dude. Like,
Yeah.
and so
Right.
it's street cred. Let me tell you something about street cred. Street cred, street cred cannot be bought. You can't be. It has to be earned. So the
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
dudes that got their name in the street, they got their name in the street. They earned it. You can't
Hmm.
buy it. See, Jerry tried to come in and buy himself being a football guy. Now you got to
Right.
come through the mud to be a football guy, man. You got to
Mm-hmm.
come up. I mean, hey, did you coach high school? Did you play
Hmm.
pros? Did you coach
Hmm.
college? Hey, you go look at
Hmm.
Sean Payton's. I looked at Sean Payton's resume versus Jason Garrett's resume. They almost the same age, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
Sean Payton coached over there where Tony Romo came, but he also Sean Payton coached at a junior college. He coached at a small school on the West Coast. Then he coached on at a college. Then he got with Bill Parcells. He had a plethora of people who bagged, he put all those experiences in one bag, which made him the coach that he was. And so then you had Jason Garrett, where he coached at Miami one year, and the next thing you know, he's offense coordinator next year for us. Those are kind of things, man, that you can't have. You're not
Yeah.
hiring these guys because they're qualified to have a wealth of experience. You're hiring them because you like them. You're hiring them because they're going to allow you to do the things that you want to do. And we got to get away from that kind of stuff, man. We got to start just letting the football guys on hiring good football guys and letting them run the thing instead of, hey, hey, what about a Schoonmaker? We gotta get in some plays. I don't need that from my GM. I need you just to be a GM. You got the guys. Let me handle them. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's kind of my point with those
And
guys.
a lot of people don't remember this. So Sean Payton, he was the offensive coordinator for the Giants. He actually got demoted, and he was looked upon as not a good coach at that time. So it was Jim Fossil. He demoted him. So he demoted Sean Payton. The year he demoted Sean Payton from calling plays, they went to the Super Bowl that year. They lost to the Ravens. The Giants did. And so even Sean Payton, he had to dig it out of the dirt when he got demoted. Jason Garrett didn't have to do that. I was watching that game last night, B Bird. You know
Yeah.
what kind of stood out to me also? So I'm watching the guys on our team. They all had that flavor. They all had that charisma, that whatever. What do they call it back in the day? They had that swag. You could just
Mhm.
tell they were guys from like you knew what they were. You looking at Jason Garrett, and you could just tell he wasn't he was out of place even during the game.
Princeton.
He just looked
Yeah,
like I'm
Princeton.
not
Yeah.
really supposed to be out here. And they were blowing the game. One of the reasons they were blowing the game is because they was trying to make Jason Garrett the focal point of the offense. So they stopped throwing the ball and just started giving it to Emmett. And they were down. I think at one point they were down like 14 points. Do you remember that Thanksgiving game?
I
They
do
had
remember. Yeah.
sauce.
Yeah.
They had sauce. That's what you call it.
And then, so once they got the ball out of Jason Garrett's hands, they actually ended up. It wasn't a blowout, but they ended up winning the game like pretty easily.
Yeah.
But no, Jason Garrett. One of the things we got to talk about too is I'm still trying to figure out who told Jerry that Jason Garrett was going to be a good coach. Where did he get that from?
You got to remember that he missed out on Sean Payton. So you got to remember that we got a offensive minded guy, a young guy, and that's what he was kind of trying to mirror at that time when because I think he had an opportunity to hire Sean, but he didn't do it. And
Yeah,
so he brought Garrett over, and it's bad that he did that because remember he hired Garrett before he hired Wade Phillips.
yeah.
What about
And
Norv? Where was Norv at during this time?
Norv Turner.
Yeah.
So Norv Turner was with the Commanders, or the formerly the Redskins. So he went to Washington, then he went to the Raiders. So he was
Yeah,
at a couple of times he had a job, but he had the chance to hire Norv when he hired Wade Phillips, and so that was a huge mistake, not hiring Norv. But so B Bird, he got this picture up that I sent
yeah.
him. So I want to ask you, okay, so what do you think is going on in this picture? Like, what are we looking at here?
I think they're talking about some parameters of the contract or whatever. I just think that I just don't. I don't know. I just don't understand why this contract isn't done at this point in time. To be totally honest with you, now we got a couple other defensive ends that are out there. The one in Pittsburgh, Watts,
Cincinnati.
and Cincinnati. Yeah, but Cincinnati, I never want to be put in with those guys for negotiating because that ownership isn't. They falling back to where they were also. But so I don't know what they're talking about there, but it has to be contract wise. And Jerry's always trying to save a couple of dollars, and it ended up costing him in the end. Because I think really the contracts, the first one who signs, the team's going to get the best deal on the first guy that
Yeah.
signs. Because after that, if Watt signed, now the agent for Michael can't come in lower than that.
No.
Mm-mm.
So that
And his,
they wait.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, he's not coming in under that.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're trying to wait each other out.
yeah,
Now
So
Brian Broaddus guys, he reported today. I was listening to their show this evening. He reported two things I want to talk about like real quick. So he reported that he's hearing is Michael's agent. The Cowboys are ready to talk and get something going. But he says the agent is playing hardball, which is understandable because he's really a good agent. He knows that this deal right here is going to be one of his landmark deals. So, do you think that they'll get it done by training camp, B Bird?
If they're serious, I think last year, if you go back and look in retrospect and look at, okay, you had a lame duck coach, you made no free agent additions in the offseason. Um, then you signed Dak right before the first game. Then you signed
Mhm.
CD late in camp. Man, I'm sorry. I think they just kind of gave away last season. I think they
Yeah.
was this is gonna be a give up season now. But I think that if you look at some of the we signed Pickens, had a good draft. We signed some other guys that are two Pickens. I mean, we traded for Pickens, but it kind of overshadows all the other acquisitions. But we made some solid acquisitions. So I think they're thinking more of football terms instead of, hey, we need to get Micah in before camp, get all that done. So hopefully that's what their thought process is to get him signed before training camp.
So, Jules, shout out your uncle Eric.
Oh
So,
yeah, I was gonna say shout out to my uncle Eric. He
so,
watching and he said thanks for the info.
so we got to catch up. So, like, actually, we saw Rhonda at the Concord picnic. We got to catch up. But
Mhm.
okay, so I think I kind of agree with you guys. I think we probably gonna get this deal wrapped up. It did affect CD. CD kind of got off to a
Absolutely.
slow start, last year, and kind of
Mhm.
impacted the season. But I think that myself, I'm kind of in between you guys on the running back. I'm kind of 50-50. I do want to see them, what they do in preseason. And B Bird, one of the things, Jude, you can jump in and ask a question too. I mean, just take over. But I think they need to. We talked about benchmarking earlier. I think one of the things they need to do, they need to look at what Kansas City has done in preseasons. B Bird, Kansas City plays their guys,
Man,
and
that's a big deal with me.
Mike McCarthy has killed us with not playing these guys.
That's a
That
big
that
deal with
that's
me,
hurt
bro.
us. So you think that'll change with Shotty with this preseason, the way where these guys are not playing?
Let me just say this. I'm gonna make this statement. If Patrick Mahomes can play preseason, then Dak Prescott can. I'm
Yep.
sorry. That's just all there is to it. I think what ends up happening is our first few games end up being our workout the keep games.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
your
And
preseason.
you only have 17 games, man. And people say, well, you don't want to get anybody hurt. But with that mentality, how you gonna build a tough team if you're protecting everybody all the time? Hey, we
Yep.
get more people injured in practice than we do in games. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I honestly believe not a whole get a guy in a couple of series. Remember Tom Brady, man? In his latter days he played preseason.
Yeah.
So we are under this protect our guys so much that man, look, football is more. Let me tell you this. So I was in the military, right?
Mhm.
So when I went to basic training, do you think they put me up at a Hyatt or a hotel like that? No, we
Mhm.
in barracks. Why? They're getting us ready for war. We got to get these guys' minds ready for war, man, and protecting and days off and all this stuff. I know you got to give some days off, but you can't make that. That becomes epidemic in your organization, and it makes your organization soft. We already. Let me tell y'all what I've looked at, man. Let me get the stat out right quick. We already a dome team, and I don't know if
Mhm.
y'all ever heard me talk about that. Have y'all ever heard me talk about that? The dome
Yeah.
No,
team.
I haven't.
Okay, so let me get it up here. It says since 1998, dome teams in the year that they made the Super Bowl played 18 out of the 20 games in domes. Only two outside. One of them outside was when the Rams a few years ago beat Tampa Bay. That was 70-degree weather. And the other outside game was when Peyton Manning and the Colts beat Baltimore. The score was 15-9 in Baltimore. It was actually 66 degrees in Baltimore that year. Um, and it said two outside and none in inclement weather. So they never like we're a dome team, man. So are we are we gonna play like a dome team? Because name a dome team that y'all said, man, it was a nasty defense. Name one.
You really can't.
I can't name one. I can't
And we're
name
we're and
a
we're
tough team.
and also to piggyback on your point, we are a different team just on grass.
Yeah,
Period.
absolutely,
We just don't look the
absolutely.
same when we
We don't
play
We
look the
on
same.
don't.
that turf. We play
We be looking
fast.
fast. They be looking.
Yeah.
They be hitting hard.
Now when they play
So
on grass, and then you
It's like they be
combine that
stuck in
with
the
the
mud.
cold, they look worse.
Yeah, they look
so let me
way
tell you what
worse.
let me tell you what the stat says. The stat says to me when I did this research, it was a couple of years ago. It says that if you're going to be a dome team and get to the Super Bowl, you better have home field advantage.
Yeah.
So the Super Bowl winners have all had home field advantage, throughout. You know what I'm saying? So You got to have home field advantage because it's hard to go to Green Bay, then go to Philadelphia in January, man.
And
So
Jules, I
what I'm
want to,
saying is,
yeah,
you got to get
go
these
ahead, brother.
guys' minds tough right now, man.
So
Yeah.
Jules, you go ahead, and I want to say something about that home field. Go ahead.
Uh, yeah. I mean, no, I'm just in my thoughts now because what B Bird said, that's so true. And like you said, and then you think about it, all the teams in the NFC. Now that I'm thinking about that, all the teams in the NFC that we would have to play in the NFC Championship or in the playoffs,
Yeah,
most of them are up north. You got the
absolutely.
Eagles, you got Washington, you got Minnesota. Well, Minnesota got a dome, but you got Chicago. You
Green Bay,
got
Green Bay is dome.
Ask Miami how it feels to go up to Buffalo
Oh,
in
oh,
January.
we knew they was gonna lose that
It's
game.
over. Let me tell you, Houston has always had to go to Baltimore and always had to go to Kansas City, and that's where the season ended. They're a dome team, used to 70 degree, no wind, and when they played their playoff games last 2 years, Houston has won at home. But when they went on the road, they lost, and they got. Think we got it bad. They got Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore. They probably got to go through, and so it's just like you have to get prepared for that. And so what ends up happening, man, the same offense you have in September and October, a little bit of November, that offense may change in January and February, man. That might not work because it doesn't work in Green Bay, it doesn't work in
Mhm.
Philadelphia, and that's not going to work in Washington either.
That's why
So, but
Philadelphia and Baltimore getting those running backs like that
that's right,
truly helped them at the
that's
end of the
right,
year because
absolutely.
that's helped them a lot.
Absolutely, because they can lean on that. And one thing, man, and I know I'm veering off a little bit, but
no, you're fine.
No,
I'm
you
not a
good.
hater. I'm not a hater like so what I do with people is I can dislike Philadelphia. I can hate them,
Mhm.
but I can admire what they do when they do right. I can acknowledge when they do something right. What they
Right.
did is sign their quarterback and said, and they built their team like they didn't sign their quarterback. Like
Yeah,
they built their team like he's a rookie quarterback. They said, no, we're gonna put people around this guy. The Cowboys
Mhm.
side Dak and said, it's all on you. We're gonna go as far as Dak takes us. That's just two
That's
different
crazy.
mentalities, man.
And then don't give him no help whatsoever. Have an off season off.
Can I tell you why? Let me tell you, let me tell you, let me tell you what happens. And I'll tell you why this happens. The owner should never be at the negotiating table. But since
Mm,
he's the GM, he's at the negotiating table. The reason why is so this is why players are not at the negotiating table. Because that GM is going to say some things derogatory towards that player. If that player
mhm,
hears that, he gonna feel some kind of different way. So he has to have an
mhm,
agent there in play. The same thing is for the owner. The
mhm,
owner don't need to be there, right? Just let the
mhm.
GM negotiate the
Right.
deal. But I think
It's like personal and business. Personal
that's
and
right.
business.
That's right. And so what ends up happening is Jerry gets into his feelings. And
Mhm.
so I can tell you one time he got into his feelings. I called it right after when he got that. Oh man, what's the quarterback out of San Francisco we traded for? That was on our team last
Trey
year.
Lance.
He
Trey
got
Lance.
Trey Lance. That was all emotional, man. That was totally
Mhm.
emotional. And
I
people
give
say,
you a
why
better
do you
one.
say it's emotional?
Zeke last year. That was all emotional.
That was
They
all
should have been
emotional.
playing. They should have been
Trey
playing.
Lance, Trey Lance trade was emotional because he didn't check with anyone to do it.
The
His coach
Mingo,
didn't
the
know.
Mingo, the
It,
Mingo trade was emotional.
emotional also. He
Mhm.
makes emotional things, and so I don't
Nah,
know,
you
man.
got something. You got something with that.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
something with that.
That
I'm gonna
dude,
have
that
to.
dude,
We gonna yeah.
that dude's
We gonna have to do a
emotional,
whole
man.
show on. We gonna have to
And
do a
he
whole
should.
show on that.
But
That,
what he also does, the
yeah,
other emotional part of it, when he pays the player, he feels like no matter what, you're obligated to play for me. If
absolutely.
you got messed up ankles, knees, whatever the case may be, he doesn't care because he's paid you.
Yeah, it's like
What
last year he was saying like he was just like a CD got paid, he gonna get the ball a lot or the most of the time. It's just like what does that have to do with each other?
they're not saying that in Philadelphia.
Mm-mm,
No.
no,
But he wants to be like, yeah, I'm giving you that money, so you need to go out there and see that's what not that's emotions.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
But
like
what
what? That
Philadelphia
don't even
says,
make sense.
we're gonna pay you, we're gonna put people around you because guess what? You're a good quarterback, but guess what? We're gonna make this whole team great. We don't and so a lot of times, man, that dude won the playoff game last year throwing for 134 yards. Hurts
Mm-hmm.
did. Because he
Yep.
had Saquon back there. Had a
Because
great
he had
yeah.
offensive line.
Saquon.
That's what
And I'm gonna
Jason
say like
Garrett did. That's what Jason Garrett did on that game I watched last night. He had like 100 and well, he
twenty
might have
something
got to
yards.
200 with the plays that he made. But
Mm-hmm.
what I was going to tell you guys about this home field advantage when you're a dome
Yeah,
team, you know what you better have? and hopefully they have it this year because the last couple times they had home field advantage. What killed them when they had home field advantage at AT&T Stadium is they didn't have the best coach, and it was clear
Mm-hmm.
that first year they played the 49ers, the year that they came into the stadium with the boombox B Bird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mike McCarthy before the game, he's saying it looks like his team is nervous, they're not ready to play. What coach says that?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, and I think what it is this: we do well as hunters, but we always the hunted. We've been the hunted
Mm.
for years, even when we're
Oh
not.
yeah.
So people are always hunting us, and we're always defending ourselves against hunters.
Everybody
But
get hyped to play us.
everybody get hyped to play us. I'm gonna tell you, man. Back in the '90s, we hunted everybody because we had some
Yeah.
hunters on our team. We hunted everybody, man, and we was hungry. And
Mm.
you build that in the off season, man. But I'll tell you what. So I think what'll end up happening, man, is this: what you want Dak to do is perform like you perform in the regular season. But I
Mm-hmm.
think also that year with Green Bay, we only had one way to win. We had to get up on teams and make teams pass. Now our pass
Mm-hmm.
rush gets on them and we get interceptions.
Turnovers.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what Green Bay said is, nah, we're not even gonna pass the ball. We're
Yeah.
gonna we gonna just run down y'all throat because one thing that Jones running back said, he said, we're gonna punch these front runners in the mouth. And we were front runners, man. We did well when we had the lead, but we ain't had the lead. Now we look like that Dak deer in the headlights. Look,
And then
So
you
I
know what
think
I was
I think the
was
key for
go ahead.
Shadi Jules, I'm let you talk. So I think the key for Shadi is going to be if they can have a good year, which I actually think they're going to have a good year. So the key is going to be when they play a game at home, playoff game. Is he gonna have a team mentally ready to play? What I'm seeing in his coaching underwear Olympics, it's possible.
Mhm.
Now I kind of see
Yeah.
some things that he is doing that may have his team. Now, whether they have the talent or not, B Bird is a whole nother story.
yeah,
But I do think he does have, to me, he has the look of a coach that's gonna have his team mentally ready to play and play with
Mm-hmm.
energy. Now it's just gonna be, does he have the right players
yeah.
to play with? Go ahead, Jules.
Oh, so like I was gonna piggyback off what both of y'all said. It's just like one thing about Mike McCarthy is just like, okay, we were a front running team, we were a front running team when we had Mike McCarthy. Now, what he wouldn't do to me, which would just make me upset, we would have a front running team, but then he would do something like start off with defense. We would win a toss, and then he would defer it to the second half. And it's just like, why would you do that if we're a front running team? He did
Yeah,
that against Green Bay.
yeah,
Against Green Bay, it's just like they got the ball, they went right down the field and scored. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, you had the opportunity to defer. I mean, to take the ball and start off fast, but you didn't. And then another thing, like y'all said, the older I get, the more I realize that coaching is important. It's just like
very.
last year, last year Mike McCarthy would actually come up to the stadium and say that we lost the game because he didn't think we had good practice. He would say that. He would
Yeah,
say, yeah, we just ain't practicing good. And it's just like, what do you mean you're not practicing? I've never heard an NFL, I've never heard a professional coach say that about a team,
can,
that we're
can,
not
can I
practicing good.
can I say something right quick? I want to make a
Right.
statement and see how these correlate. The Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise in the world, yet they had the 31st uh, highest paid coach in the NFL last year.
Oh man,
31st.
we stuck on that. We was
There's
on
no
that. Yeah,
salary cap. There's no salary cap on coaches.
that's insane.
That's insane. The Lakers wouldn't do it. The Yankees wouldn't do it. These iconic teams would never do that.
Mm-mm.
They're going to go out and get the
Mm-mm.
best. You know what I'm saying? The
Mm-hmm.
best players and the best coaches. They're not going. They're not going to do that, man. So I don't understand why we're. But I think what it is comfortability is the first trait they look for. Will this coach allow us to do what we want to do? And I also think too when McCarthy came on, and I was the first one to say this, and I told Scott this the first time I came on, and he said, "Yeah, man, we got Kellen Morris." I said, "Man, that's a bad sign." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Man, because no offensive coach that was an offensive play caller wants to get another play caller in here that he don't even know." I say that's a
Mm-hmm.
Jones move. He had to accept that to get the job. But once you
Yeah.
accept that to get the job, they got you now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They got you because the Cowboys have never got into a bidding war. They haven't got into a bidding war of a player since Brandon Carr in 2012, and they've never got into a bidding war of a coach. They just won't do it. That's why they won't sign free agents now because they know a free agent is going to get us in a bidding war, and they won't
Mhm.
do it.
So
They don't want to pay.
what you gotta hope is, and one of the theories I have is sometimes, like they say, the broken clock is right twice a day. Sometimes you get lucky and just hire the right coach. Like
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni, he's
Yeah,
still not a great coach, but
Mm-mm.
but they got lucky from the standpoint they built a good team around him,
yeah.
and now he has a ring. So I
He
think,
matured too. He
yeah,
matured too. Because all that stupid stuff, he didn't do that last year.
yeah. And so we gotta hope
Yeah.
with Shotty that Jerry, he just might be at a point where he's getting lucky just hiring the right guy. We're gonna see, how it comes together. I like some of the things he's doing. Some of the stuff I think that I'm saying too, to me, he's kind of going overboard with it. I think he kind of need to tone it down just a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think, we're gonna see if sometimes you just get lucky, sometimes you just hire the right guy. I think to me, he's more like Sirianni than he is more like a Sean Payton, in my opinion.
I agree.
He's just gonna have to, have the team prepared. And so one of the things, I don't really watch a whole lot of preseason ball, B-Bird, but this year I'm gonna be watching, and so just to kind of see how this thing plays out. And so the last thing I want to ask you is just some of these position battles. So who do you think is going to end up being the number 3 and 4 receiver? And then how do you think this tight end thing is going to shake out?
The tight end thing, man. This receiver is going to be interesting because there's going to be some people on the cut list that's going to be, that was kind of that was, that we wouldn't that last year was automatic to make the team. But let me look at this list here because I like Jalen Tolbert as a three. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
think Jalen Tolbert was put in a position. You got to remember that was the same time that we let Amari go, and we signed Gallup to that contract, and then we brought in Jalen Tolbert, and they put a lot of, hey, he's out there working with Dak. Man, this guy's he's getting it, and Jack was raving about him. This, that, that. It was too much put on a guy from University of South Alabama to come out and initially perform, but that's what they thought, right? That he's going to be our number three. So then
Mhm.
last year he ended up being our number two for a lot of the season. But him as a number three is not a bad situation, man. To be honest with you, I think we got some good dudes on the back end of the roster. I think too is their addition to the top end of the roster is the way you're supposed to do stuff. So the Cowboys are usually like if we lose, say Jalen Tolbert, we'll go get somebody like Jalen Tolbert to fill it. Whereas other teams say, no, I'll go get a number two or a number one and push everybody down and make my team better.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mhm.
think that's the only one. But them bringing in Pickens, I think they made the whole room look better. To be honest with you, because now you
Mhm.
move uh, Tolbert to three, and that's a good place for him. The tight end, I don't know what they're doing there because they really. I heard a lot about Brevin Stanford yesterday. Luke Schoonmaker hadn't really, showed up. But I still think Jake Ferguson, I look for him to have a bounce back year, to be honest with you, especially with the attention that the wide receivers are going to get. The running back out the backfield is going to get a new scheme. I look for, and he was hurt last year too. So I look for a bounce back year from him at the tight end position. It might just be putting Brevin Stanford out there just to kind of rile him up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna say these two things, and then I'm gonna fall back. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. So I wanted to make a comment about like how Bieber, how you said like you can respect what the Eagles do.
Right.
So like I feel like so like I don't like the Eagles. I don't like any of the rivals, but what I do like is some of the players. Like I was a fan of Jalen Hurts before he got to the Eagles, so I'm still a fan of Jalen Hurts. I just like him as a person. You know what I mean?
I
Like
do too,
like,
man. I do
you know what
too.
I'm saying? So I don't like him as a player, or I don't think he's better than Dak. But as a
Nah,
person, I like him. I like him as a person. Like AJ Brown, I was an AJ Brown fan when he was in
I
college.
like him too.
So when he was with the Titans, I was a fan of AJ Brown. So I'm an AJ Brown fan. And so
Yeah.
I don't necessarily root for him, but when he's playing against us, but I want to see him win, not against us, but every other than that, I like him
Yeah.
as a person. You know what I mean?
Uh,
So and then what I was gonna say is so I think what everything that we said is kind of like okay, what with the new coach like Shoddy, you gotta have somebody that kind of can stroke the Joneses ego, you know what I mean? But also you got to have someone that can stroke their ego, but the Joneses let this guy actually run the team and be a football guy and have more say in the operations than they do. And so far, that's kind of what I'm seeing with Shotty. Like for instance, um the Joneses, we want everybody was doing team weapons versus team line trenches before the draft. Well, we was all upset because we figured that we needed that we wanted them to get a wide receiver and a running back. We wanted them to get a wide receiver number 2 in the draft. But little did we know that behind the scenes, Shotty had been working on George Pickens before the draft, during the draft, and after the draft. So it's kind of like, Shotty, he answered that call for us. And it's just like, so it's kind of like Shotty's doing some of these things that we want to see them doing. And like I told my dad and my uncle yesterday, for a while here, it's like, Shotty and the players have taken the spotlight. We ain't seen Jerry and Steven and really don't care what they got to say. Don't want to see them. We're more interested in what Shotty is saying and what the team is saying. But nobody even we it's kind of like Jerry and Steven, they kind of faded back a little bit. It's like we seeing them, but it's just like we ain't really like. I was on Cowboys YouTube the other day. I watched every interview except Stevens because I don't really need to hear what he has to say. Don't want to hear what he has to say. It's just
Well,
like he you know.
let me tell you why that is. So you know why Garrett lasted 10 years here? Because the
Mhm.
Cowboys, the front office were invested in his success. Because if
Yeah.
Garrett succeeds, that's one of their guys. See, if they pick
Yeah.
you and you've never won anything before, now you come there and win, they can get credit for hiring you. One thing Shotty
Right.
has, he's one of their guys. Shotty's
Yeah.
never head coached
Mhm.
anyone before. This is his first opportunity. So they're going to be
Right.
invested in him winning. So rather than McCarthy, McCarthy won at Green Bay. So if you win over here, well, McCarthy, he's a Super Bowl winning coach over there, he's a Super Bowl winning
Yeah.
coach over here. But they're invested for Shotty to be successful. The only
Mhm.
thing we'll see if they have any kind of. They might leave him alone. So that's the one. That's one thing that's working in the favor, right? So hopefully they'll
Mhm.
leave him alone because they're invested in him being successful, and they're going to
Yeah.
give him players to be successful. They're not going to leave him out like on one tech. Where you need a one tech or somebody solid in there. They probably gonna get one
Mhm.
for him.
So Jules,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and thank everybody for joining and have them like and subscribe and share. And we go ahead and wrap it up. So B Bird, man, we appreciate you, you know, coming on with us and help us try to go our channel. And like I was telling you earlier today when I was reaching out to you, we definitely gonna try to hook up some more
Oh yeah,
before the
man.
season
Anytime,
start.
Yeah.
hey, just reach
Yeah.
out
No,
to me, man.
I'm.
Just
Yeah, I'm saying
Preseason,
that.
anytime.
regular season. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do this. I want to do this more. I want to make this
Yeah,
normal with B
yeah. It
Bird.
could
I
be.
mean,
It could be, man. It
yeah,
definitely
let's
could
do
be.
that because
Anytime,
yeah, let's do that.
anytime,
Like I
man.
said, let's do that.
Anytime y'all reach out to me, man, and I'm available, I'll be here. One thing, man, I love y'all content. I love the chemistry between y'all two, man. And
Hmm.
it's been a pleasure, man. I've just been watching y'all, and I think what's gonna happen, man. You're gonna look back 2, 3 years from now, y'all gonna been grown, but y'all gonna grow organically. Y'all gonna be true to
Yeah.
yourselves, man. And that's one thing I noticed. I can kind of see where y'all going. I told Sky when I was on this show when there's only like 10 followers, man. I said, man, keep doing what you're doing. You're a smart dude. You're family friendly, uh, and you're passionate about the Cowboys. You're gonna grow. And he always come back and say, man, you said that. I said, yeah, I see the same thing with y'all too, man. Y'all got something special, something different here, and the chemistry between y'all guys, man. I feel like it's family to me talking to y'all, man. So
Yeah.
anytime y'all reach out to me, man, just let me know what time I'll be on, man. Just like I was today. Y'all looking forward
For
to it.
sure. For
All
sure.
right. Well, thanks so much, B Bird, and I'll be in touch and we'll chat offline.
All right, brother.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you. Okay,
All right.
Jules.
Thank everybody else for coming out, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Make sure y'all comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.